Hi guys. I hope that things are getting easier for you and I hope you're having a good week. Guess what? I've got a little quiz for you just to help you to make sure that you're catching the things that you should and you're going away with some of the information that's more important. So this information is going to be from weeks 1 through 4, and I may do another one, we'll see. But what I want you to do is just get a piece of paper and you're just going to write the answers. They're going to be short. Okay, so write the answers. There's going to be 20, so if you want to number it, I'll wait. Okay, I'm going to call the question out and I want you to put the answer in next to that question. Okay, and you guys know I always repeat it, so don't worry about that. Okay. All right, I guess you can number as you go along. All right, here we go. Number one. Every 4 years, America holds either a caucus or a what? Every 4 years, America holds either a caucus or a what? Fill in the blank. Two, the blank to the Constitution introduces it and lays out the goals. The blank to the Constitution introduces and lays out the goals of the Constitution. And of course, you can stop this at any time if you need to think a little bit more, okay? Number three, Montesquieu's idea about separation of powers. Remember Montesquieu from way back? The separation of powers is shown as three what? Three, and then there's a blank. Okay, this goes back to, well, the first time we talked about it was the Enlightenment philosophers. So again, number three, Montesquieu's idea about separation of powers is shown as three blank. Number four, the Senate and the House together is called, these two chambers together is called, once again, number four, the Senate and the House together is called blank. 5, the executive branch blank laws. In other words, what is their power? Number 5, the executive branch blank laws. 6, the legislative branch blanks laws. What do they do? The legislative branch blanks laws. Number 7, the only office that requires that the person be natural born would be which office? Now write that down. 7 again, the only office that requires that the person be natural born would be which office? Remember, born in the United States. 8, the state of blank blank is an annual speech given by the president to Congress. Once again, number 8, the state of blank blank, 2 words, is an annual speech given by the president. Number 9, the Supreme Court blank whether a law is constitutional. This is one of the powers of the Supreme Court. They're the only ones that can do this. The Supreme Court blank whether a law is constitutional. It's one of their powers. Number 10, the term of a Supreme Court justice lasts how long? Remember, we went through senators, members of the House of Representatives, the president. We talked about all those terms, how long they lasted. So once again, number 10, the term of a Supreme Court justice lasts how long? 11, the UN handles disputes or arguments between countries. UN stands for blank, blank. 11, again, the UN handles disputes between countries. UN, that abbreviation, stands for blank, blank, 2 words. 12, members of NATO promise to come to the aid of other members, other countries that are members. What does NATO stand for? So there's 4 blanks there. Blank, 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 blank. This was one of the last things that we did, I think, before spring break. Again, members of NATO promise to come to the aid of other member countries. What does NATO stand for? 4 words. 13, sites that end in .org, .edu, or .gov are often more blank than .com, which stands for commercial, by the way. The com is commercial. Once again, number 13. Sites that end in .org, .edu, or .gov are often more blank than those that end with .com. .com stands for commercial, by the way. Alrighty. This was when we were talking about propaganda and bias. All right, next one, number 14. Each section of the Constitution is called an, what's the word? For each section of the Constitution. The sections are called blank when it comes to the Constitution. 14. Each section, oops, wrong one. I already did it. Number 15. A representative democracy is called blank. What kind of government would that be? And it's not a political party. Big hint there. Again, number 15. A representative democracy is called blank. And it's not a political party in this case. Okay. 16. To add to or change the Constitution. One word that means that. One blank. Again, 16. You're going to fill in the blank. What is the word that means to add to or change the Constitution? 17. To ratify is to what? That's the blank. What is the word that means to ratify? 18. Another word for federal is what? If you didn't want to use the word federal, but it means the same thing, 18. Sorry, my little grand dog is getting emotional. Anyway, again, number 18, if you don't want to use the word federal, you can use what word instead? 19. A formal agreement between countries is a what? A formal agreement between countries is a blank. And the last one, number 20, easy, easy. A tax on imports is called a what? 20. A tax on imports is a blank. What's it called if you're taxing products, goods that come into the country? That's an import, okay? Okay, you should have found this pretty easy, and you should have been able to do it just off the top of your head. Maybe a couple of them you had to think a little longer, but of course you're lucky that you can stop it if you need to think a little bit more. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the answers with you, see how you did, pretend we're in class and you're grading your own paper, and then you can see what you missed, find out why you missed it, and if we were going to grade this for accuracy, what kind of a grade would you end up with? Lucky for you, all I want you to do is after you get through this process of taking it and then grading it with me, you just want to hit submit, confirming that you actually did this, okay? It's a really good checkup. All right, here we go. Number 1, every 4 years, America holds either a caucus or a primary. Primary. 2, the preamble to the Constitution introduces and lays out the goals of the Constitution. 2, again, the preamble to the Constitution introduces it and lays out the goals. Number 3, Montesquieu's idea about separation of powers is shown as 3 branches. Again, number 3, Montesquieu's idea about separation of powers is shown as 3 branches. Are 3 branches. Remember separation of powers, checks and balances. Hopefully it's coming back to you. Okay, number 4. The Senate and the House, when you put them together, it is called what? Congress. Okay. Again, number 4. The Senate and the House together is called Congress. 5. The executive branch, you could have put enforces laws or execute laws. Remember from way back, I tried to give you some little tips on how to remember these things. Remember E and E, executive, enforce. Okay? Next, 6, the legislative branch, blank laws. Now we're talking about the legislative branch blanks laws. Well, the blank is makes laws. Makes. Remember L in L. Legislative lawmakers. That's how you were going to remember them. Okay, number 7. The only office that requires that the person be natural born, remember that means born in the United States, the only office would be the president. Again, number 7. The only office that requires the person to be natural born is the president. Number 8. The State of the Union is an annual speech given by the president. Remember, I talked about that with you and I described what it looks like. You know, both houses or chambers are present with a lot of other prominent people. And the president basically delivers the report card of our nation, how it's doing, what's good, what's bad, what would he like from Congress, those kinds of things. Remember we talked about how you can tell if people agree or disagree with him? They'll stand up and clap, obviously, if they like what he's doing. If not, it's easy to tell because the others are just sitting there, maybe even with their arms crossed and very blank. Okay, it's obvious. All right, the next one, number 9, the Supreme Court decides whether a law is constitutional. Judges or decides, either one. Again, 9, the Supreme Court decides or judges whether a law is constitutional. Okay, and they're the only ones that can do this. All right, moving along. Number 10, the term of a Supreme Court justice lasts a lifetime. Remember? The only way it would be shortened is if it was their choice to retire or they pass away or that's pretty much it. Or they get impeached. Okay, because that can happen to the justices too. Okay, so again, the term of a Supreme Court justice lasts for life unless they misbehave. Number 11, the UN handles disputes between countries. UN stands for United Nations. Nations banding together. Okay, united. Again, 11, the UN handles disputes between countries. UN stands for United Nations. We're a member of, one of the main members. Number 12, members of NATO promise to come to the aid of other member countries. What does NATO stand for? North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Again, members of NATO, they promise each other that they will help each other if need be. And NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And yes, we are a member. 13. Sites that end in .org, .edu, or .gov, G-O-V, are often more reliable, more accurate, maybe you said, than .com, things that end in .com. And by the way, .com, remember, means it's short for commercial, okay? So they may be wanting to sell you something. And you know about propaganda and bias. It kind of figures into that. Okay, next one, number 14. Each section of the Constitution is called an article. An article. Each section of the Constitution is called an article. Remember, the first three articles talk about the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branches in that order. Remember ledge? Remember I wrote it on the board? L-E-J. That's how you're going to remember the order that they're covered in the Constitution. And it's right away. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 15. A representative democracy is called Republican. And don't be confused. We're not talking in this case about the Republican Party. This is just the definition of the word. So again, a representative democracy is called Republican. And we're not talking about a political party at this time. It's just describing the type of government that we have. And remember that from way back, we said we, every single American, cannot go to Washington, D.C. every day with our briefcases and make laws and discuss things. It's just not practical. Okay, so what we do instead is we elect people to do that for us. They're representing House of Representatives. Okay, all right, next one. 16. To add or to change the Constitution is to amend it. To amend it. And by the way, remember the first 10 amendments are called the Bill of Rights. All right. 17. To ratify is to approve, accept, or approve. Either one would do. Okay. Repeating, 17, to ratify is to approve. Okay. 18. Another word for federal is national. I don't want you to be confused and think they're two different things. They're really talking about the same thing. Okay. Interchangeable. All right. Again, another word for federal is national. 19. A formal agreement between countries is called a treaty. A formal agreement between countries is a treaty. And 20, last but not least, a tax on imports is a tariff. You call it a tariff. Any goods that are coming into our country from another country, if you tax it, you tax those goods, that's a tariff. Okay? And that's easy. Because if they're coming in, it sounds a lot like imports. Okay? So think about those little things that I point out to you and I tell you you should write down. Again, last one. A tax on imports is a tariff. Okay? I hope you did well. A lot of them were really, things that were covered over and over and over. So hopefully it just came to you. If not, then you can see where you're strong and where you're weak as far as knowing this information, okay? And I think I'm leaning toward doing this again because I really miss the face-to-face and me actually talking and explaining. You can only explain so much when you're online, the little by the ways. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful for you. Now what do? Like I said, once you finish this process, taking it, grading it, and listening to me go over things, you hit submit, and that's it. Okay, this will help you out though. I hope you have a good rest of the week. Please stay up on things. You don't want to get behind a week or 2 weeks. And take them in order, guys. It'll make it a lot easier on you, okay? They're in that order for a particular reason, all right? Okay, if you need anything, you know what to do, all right? I'm here. Bye, guys.